Hi, that good. Hi, good morning. Good morning, India. Good evening in California, and sleep time in East Coast. Welcome you all. MedBix webcast. This is Ramana Namaraju. I'm the host. Um, the that I'm not Albert Einstein, but I'm pretty good. That's my tagline now. so, we're going to talk about. I'm trying to join with Dr. Krishna Tangella, the professor of pathology. We are having some. He's having some technical issues, and we need to find out that. But during this time, I'm going to explain to you what is this healthcare media channel. It's a unique kind of channel. What we do is we introduce the doctors and the healthcare executives, C-level executives, and the different companies. We introduce people and talk with them for a few minutes, and then after that, I introduce a concept. This is a cross section of interdisciplinary fields. Is not like a disease. This is not a clinical presentation place. This is basically a disciplinary. My second, my English is my second language. So interdisciplinary language things that we do: mathematics, physics, biology, art, technology, all of them together. We do that. We bring them together to show these things to the people. So a lot of physicians who attend our conference, uh, they get a, we introduce the innovation tools. What is the actual physics behind it? What is the mathematics behind it? Those kind of things, art and technology behind it. That is my goal is to introduce different areas and bring to the table. It very surprisingly, it was a big hit now with the doctors. I have a consistent ratings now from LinkedIn Live. We have a large audience from LinkedIn Live. Um, I think that is it is hitting a chord with the physicians and the medical community. I know that I have an accent, but still the content is powerful. I hope you all like the content part of it. Today, after I speak with Dr. Krishna Tangella, he is a professor of pathology in the University of Chicago, Urbana, Illinois. After that, I'm going to talk about immunotherapy. If his mic starts working, we can do that. After that, I'm going to present the HeLa Lines, Henrietta Lacks, Immortal Woman of John Hopkins. I'm going to talk about it. Very interesting story. Why she is called Immortal Woman. She only lived 30 years, still lives on with all of us. That is a very powerful story behind the Immortal Woman of John Hopkins. So let me try to bring Dr. Chris Tangella, is a professor of clinical pathology from there. Dr. Tangella, are you there? He's not. I don't see him. So let me talk a couple of minutes about it. Doctor, I've been doing this for a while. It is a challenge. It is a we are I'm not going to get upset like before. Technology is always up and downs, but I think we need to understand science first and then work about technology. So even communicate science, we need technology. No question, technology plays a role. I studied a computer science master's actually in Montreal, Canada, and then I did a physics master's degree from India, where C.V. Raman went to school. His father was teaching for us. Very prominent physicist came from my school. So I studied physics. I studied nuclear engineering in Oklahoma. So I went around and studied quite a bit of subjects. Then I I spent 30 years in the healthcare industry. Ran a radiology center, imaging center, ran MRI, CT scan, ultrasound, PET CT scan, everything you name it in the radiology side, cardiology side. Then after that, I did a placement of doctors all over the country for the under the special program called J1 Visa program. If you don't know the J1 Visa program, uh, uh, if you don't know the J1 Visa program, it is a very interesting program. It is like you can hire doctors in underserved areas in underserved health professional shortage areas. In 90s, that's a big thing. 1995 onwards is a huge thing. There were a lot of doctors from India, Philippines, Romania. they're all the doctors here. So I was placing them in a very rural areas. The specialists, highly skilled doctors. I did for this country quite a bit. That is, there are some doctors you cannot see. Those kind of doctors would not go normally. That they won't prefer to go to the rural areas with highly specialists. I took them to rural areas of the United States, from Kentucky, Alabama, to all the way to Alaska. So I did place all the doctors around the country in rural areas. So that is what I did. So I'm familiar with the doctors. Let me try to bring Dr. Chris Tangella and see that if his mic is working.
Hey, Doctor. Hey,
We
Ramana.
can
Can
hear
you
you.
hear me?
We can hear you.
Oh, wonderful.
Okay, I don't know what is going on with your technology. You over is over technology is sometimes interesting.
That's okay. That's okay. At least
Okay,
now
that's
it's
good.
kind of
We
clear
made it
and it's
work.
working.
So I'm going to play a video of T cell is so complex. I try to understand it. After playing this video, I'm going to
Okay.
introduce you, if you don't mind. Okay, that's please. Sorry, that is not the one I'm trying to do. Where is this video? Yeah, it's about
It's working
immunotherapy.
properly. The immune system wants to kill cancer cells. That's its job. Create an army of T cells to patrol our body for signs of infection and other diseases. The T cells inspect suspicious cells and, when they find an abnormal one, immediately lead an attack on it, while limiting the damage to healthy cells. The way they do that is pretty elegant. T cells have protein receptors on their surface, and these claw-like structures latch onto antigens, protein fragments found on the surface of all cells. When a receptor latches onto an abnormal antigen, like one found only on a diseased cell, the T cell turns on and releases toxic chemicals that damage the abnormal cell and recruit other immune helpers to the area. Sometimes cancer cells develop ways to fool the immune system, either by disguising themselves as healthy cells or by sprouting so many antigens on their surface that the T cells are stymied and can't mount an effective attack, or by finding ways to turn off the immune response against them. One innovative way to see through the deception is CAR T cell therapy. Thousands of a patient's own T cells are collected in a process similar to a blood donation. Using a modified and inactive virus that can't cause any disease but can introduce genetic information into a cell, the T cells are reprogrammed so they now produce special receptors called chimeric antigen receptors, or CARs, on their surface. These newly engineered cells, called CAR T cells, are grown in a lab, and millions of them are infused back into the patient. The new receptors enable them to latch onto a specific antigen on the patient's tumor cells and destroy them.
You can't hear me? Yeah, I can't hear you. You need to turn on your microphone.
Okay, can you hear me
That's good.
now?
I
Can
can
you hear
hear
me
you
now?
very clearly. Yeah.
Okay, good. So why Dr. Tangela, cancer is such a, one in, they say 1 in 3 men and 1 in 2 women get the eventually cancer in their lifetime, if they don't get any other disease, but they won't die with any other disease. why cancer is so complex and so difficult to treat?
So in order to answer your question, one should look at what is cancer and why does one get cancer. And um, it starts with a human body that has trillions and trillions of cells, and each of these cells are um, metabolically active, some more than others. Some are multiplying every day, some have stopped multiplying, but there is um, a process, a metabolic process that happens in every one of the cells. And when, in order for the cells to metabolize its function, there is a lot of DNA replication that happens, mRNA synthesis that happens, protein synthesis that happens, the protein modification after it is made happens, and the protein has a certain function. So any of these mechanism, if become dysfunctional, that can lead to uncontrolled proliferation of the cells. So body knows how much to the cells to replicate or or just be active. But when there is something wrong in the entire gamut of the process I just described, the cell proliferates uncontrollably outside the control of the human body. And when that happens, it happens quite frequently actually. The human body has an immune system that recognizes these cells and destroys them. Occasionally, these recognition process fails for a variety of reasons, and the body's immune system is not able to kill this aberrant, uncontrolled cell that is replicating. That causes cancer. There
That
are
is a
so many different types of cells, so many different types of body organs, and there is a ton of DNA material, um, and there are a ton of different types of mutations that can result in this uncontrolled replication. So, cancer, even though it's a simple word, cancer, it has a variety of different etiology for the uncontrolled growth.
doctor. That so many complex, very surprising how human body is such a complex mechanisms involved, so many mechanisms involved, so many complex processes involved. So now the cancer can be treated through chemotherapy, radiation therapy, and surgery. Then now we are getting a immunotherapy that I played the video on right now. Tell me something about what is this new thing that is everybody is talking about, immunotherapy itself.
Correct. So, as you talked about, if you have a uncontrolled proliferation of a mass of cells, that can be either removed surgically, or some cases radiation, or in some cases chemotherapy. In many cases, a combination of, depending on the type of tumor it is. As I pointed out earlier, our immune system has a very important role in controlling this aberrant cell from going on a continuous replicative cycle. Our immune system plays a very, very important part. In fact, we have cancers being generated all the time in our body, and the immune system goes and kills it.
Sen-
Immunotherapy is, yeah,
yeah, go ahead, please.
immunotherapy is using immune system, our own immune system, to fight those cancer cells.
The center of it all is the T cells. That there's the origin of all these processes. The T cell, marvelous engineering of T cells. Can you tell us about what are the T cells are?
Yeah. So we have T cells are type of a lymphocyte. There are two main categories of lymphocytes: B lymphocyte and T lymphocyte. B lymphocytes make antibodies. These antibodies go stick to a, a cell or a structure or whatever it is, and tells the remaining immune cells to go and destroy it. So that's antibody mediated immunity. The T cell mediated immunity is when the T cells actually go and has receptors on its surface, and these receptors recognizes a protein or a structure that it's not part of the human body, and these T cells go and kill that particular um, organ, sorry, a cell. Even it could be a fungus, it could be a virus, it could be a bacteria, anything that is foreign to the body. These T cells can go, attach itself, and create an immune response. T cells are extremely important because when you have cancer cells going uncontrolled proliferation in the body, many cases these T cells can recognize that something is wrong outside these cancer cells and goes and attaches itself and kills it.
Very good. So the T cells are they used? Do we use them like our body uses them to fend off vaccines, for example, or the lot of vaccine we get the vaccinations for the polio or the TB and all those things. Do the T cells play a role in that kind of things, Doctor?
Absolutely,
Tang?
yes.
Okay.
So, um, when it comes to fungus and virus, the primary immune response is the T cell mediated response. And what we do, we call a vaccine, is we expose the our immune cells to the antigens that are present in the virus or a bacteria or a fungus, or such as COVID vaccine where it's a protein, or a polio virus where it is a type of uh, cell membrane structure, sorry, the cell surface structure of the virus. And it stimulates our T cells to an immune response, and this immune response is remembered. And when a real infection comes along, polio infection, these T cells, which have memories in them, they start replicating in large numbers and kill that virus.
You said they remembered. That means, do they remember for lifelong? Or they, as long as we live, or how does it
Yes.
work? The remembrance, that
So
power
it
of the
depends.
remembrance.
Again, it depends. There are some T cells that are lifelong. For example, smallpox. It is lifelong immunity. But COVID vaccine is not lifelong. It's usually 3 to 6 months, or probably a year, as studies are coming out. So it depends on case by case basis.
Interesting. So what is T? So one of the things that I always see, what kind of diseases you can treat through immunotherapy. Um,
Correct. So before we go to that answer, there are different types of immunotherapy.
okay.
Our immunotherapy can be using stem cells of another human and infusing into a cancer patient, and those stem cells have uh, you know T cells that can go and can kill cancer. Sometimes you can inject antibodies that go and attach to the cancer cells. Then it stimulates, or it helps our T cells in our human body recognize those um, uh, antibodies that are attached to the cancer cells, and goes and destroys it. Or, as the video pointed out, it's very beautifully done video, where you can take in individuals T cells and reprogram it to recognize cancer antigens. And then once we reprogram it, we infuse into the human body like a blood transfusion. and those go and attack the cancer cells that have abnormal antigen on it and results in either cancer control or a cure. This is huge. This
Yeah.
is one extra modality other than chemotherapy, radiation therapy, and surgery that we have.
You said that I'm in computer science for a while. Programming means you're doing the reprogramming of the cells. What it consists of? What do you do with the reprogramming means?
Correct. So the T cells have on its surface a area called TCR, T cell receptor. This T cell receptor has a um, it is wired to recognize certain type of um, antigens. So there are millions and millions of T cells in the human body, and all have been programmed to recognize a different type of an antigen. So our complement of this we call complement of T cell antigen recognition. In CAR T therapy, these T cells, the TCR, which is the surface of the T cells, is programmed to recognize the antigen that is present on the cancer cells. So when you infuse these T cells into the body, it goes around into the blood circulation and recognize the cancer cell because it has the specific antigen it's looking for, and its little arm or the tentacle or you want to call it goes and attaches to that cancer cell, and that stimulates a further immune response and kills the cancer cell.
You know,
Is
my sister died with Hodgkin lymphoma. What kind of diseases you can at that time is not available. Before never heard even about the immunotherapy. What kind of diseases you can treat with this immunotherapy?
yeah.
What kind
So
of cancers?
there are a variety of different types of cancers, and every day a new cancer is coming along which can be treated with potentially treated with immunotherapy. It's still a new modality of treatment in cancer um, field. Common cancers such as leukemias, lymphomas, breast cancer, lung cancer, colon cancer, pancreatic cancers, all these cancers have been uh, treated with some degree of success using CAR T cells. There are over 20 to 30 different types of cancers now that you can uh, potentially attempt to treat. Remember, when I talk about pancreatic cancer, there are different types of pancreatic cancers, neuroendocrine cancers, adenocarcinomas, and stuff like that. So each of the different types of cancer will have a different type of CAR T cells necessary to treat it. So uh, the best way um, uh, to evaluate whether one is eligible for such CAR T therapy is talk to your oncologist and also look for clinical trials at clinicaltrials.gov, um, which would actually um, tell you for your cancer type if there is a clinical trial going on with CAR T cells therapy.
Excellent. So, what is suppose what are the risk factors? What are any risk factors involved with this one? Side effects, for example.
Yeah. So just like any chemotherapy or radiation therapy, there are side effects that are associated with CAR T therapy. That includes decreased white cell count in the body. Decreased white cell count causes increased propensity or increased risk for an individual to get infection. There could be anemia because of CAR T cells. You could have leukocytes that your platelets can go down in number. Sometimes you have fevers, severe fevers. Sometimes it can have abdominal pain. So uh, different type of CAR T cells um, can have different type of uh, side effects. One always have to look at side effects and benefits and outweigh one from the other. And after you compare, if the benefits are far outweigh the risks, then you go ahead and treat it.
So you think that in the battle against cancer, immunotherapy is the other powerful weapon in our hands. You think it's going to go and get better and better with this our using our own immune system to fend off all these cancers in the future?
I'm fully confident that the CAR T cell therapy, which is in its nascent phase right now, it's evolving very, very, very rapidly. And I would say that within the next 10 years, immunotherapy would be one of the main standard therapies for cancers, as opposed to surgery, chemotherapy, and radiation therapy. Immunotherapy has potential to cure um, cancers. Um, Remember also that you can have multiple type of T cells, CAR T cells that affect multiple different types of antigens in a cancer cell. So just don't need to have one antigen. You can have multiple different types of antigens that are being attacked at the same time. So I'm fully confident that as we evolve this technology, the outcomes for a cancer patient using immunotherapy looks very, very, very promising.
So very surprising for me when I was reading about a little bit about it. Kansas State, out of all the cities, not a Stanford, not a Berkeley, how cancer care, particularly immunotherapy, the Kansas City is in the forefront of all these things. That is kind of surprise to me. What caused that? Do you think?
I mean, I mean, University of Kansas is a great program, and I sent you some links from University of
Correct.
Kansas
Yeah,
program on
yeah,
immunotherapy to give you a background.
yeah.
There are some really good therapies that are happening at Mayo Clinic, at MD Anderson, at MSK Memorial Sloan Kettering, Northwestern University, University of Chicago. These are great, great, great cancer programs that are evaluating the benefits of CAR T therapy in a variety of different cancers.
Dr. Tangella, you're a treasure of information in my view. Yes, we get a wealth of information. We get it from you. So tell me, what is a venture? How do you information people can access, and all this information? Where can they access? And you tell me about your company that you're involved with the
Sh-
spreading this information.
Sure. So, immunotherapy is something that one should recognize as a modality of therapy. They should talk to their oncologist and see if they're eligible for immunotherapy. Oncologist and the cancer coordinator usually find clinical trials or even established therapies in nearby tertiary institutions. Um, so just talk to your doctor and put a bug in the ear that, hey, is there immunotherapy that can help me? And that should take. And you can always go to clinicaltrials.gov and look for clinical trials um, for your particular type of cancer. And there may be some immunotherapies that are currently being conducted.
The Dovmed.com, you have all the information. They can come down to your website and get all the information
Sure.
from you. Tell me
DovMed
about the
is,
Dovmed.com.
thank you very
The
much for asking about DovMed. DovMed is a healthcare technology platform that has a tremendous amount of healthcare information. We have over 40,000 pieces of content that, including information on immunotherapies. And DovMed, as a platform, brings together patients and healthcare providers together and helping each other for a better healthcare. And we also believe that bringing patients and physicians together on a platform um, is significant in the sense that when we have these two players on DovMed, we believe that a variety of other healthcare companies, such as the biotechnology companies, pharmaceutical companies, the large healthcare networks, would be interested in um, understanding and also facilitating the care from on DovMed. So please check out dovmed.com. We have a variety of different applications. We have a application for chronic health conditions. We have application for forums for physicians based on their specialty. We have a forum to look for medical jobs. We have forum for looking for medical conferences. Um, we have forums to find a physician near you, depending on the specialty and depending on the ratings and reviews. So it's a wealth and wealth of information that will help consumers. We have over 100,000 visitors per month on DoveMed, mostly from United States, that access benefits of DoveMed platform.
It is a tribute to human minds like you, the Professor Tangella, that we came up with an ingenious idea that we're using our own immune system to fend off the cancers. That's a brilliance of people like you. Thank you so much. I have a final question I wanted to ask you about something I'm presenting about HeLa lines, Henrietta lines, cellular lines. You're a pathologist. Do you use these cellular lines in your teaching or anything like that?
Sure, HeLa cells are a very famous cell culture lines that are used pretty frequently in uh, cellular cell research. Cell growth is extremely important. Human cell growth are extremely important. Um, they are used for uh, testing how new drugs affect human cells in a petri dish. You can use HeLa cell lines to see how certain viruses affect human cells and how potent they are. Um, there are HeLa cells. I'm telling you, the HeLa cell line has been uh, instrumental in our understanding of human biology very, very, very significantly.
Thank you. It is totally is a true honor for me to talk with you. You're a trove of information. Thank you for being with us. Thank you, Dr. Tangella.
Thank you, Ramana, very much, and have a very good evening. Thank you very
Thank you
much.
so much, sir. Good night.
Yeah.
So let me present you this HeLa lines. I'm going to talk about HeLa lines. So let me talk about the woman of the the immortal woman of John Hopkins. That is my story today. Her name is Henrietta Lacks. She was a wife of a steel employee. She was born in 1920 and she died in 1951. She died very young age, that hardly 30 years old. So she was had some problem with problem with the bleeding in a uncontrollable vaginal bleeding. She went to John Hopkins. That's the only place at the time, 1930s. That's the only place where black community can go there and get the treatment. That's only for that hospital. That is for the poor blacks, that they can be treated there. In fact, there's anybody poor, they can be treated there. So they found out, they diagnosed her with the cervix cancer, with a human papilloma virus, HPV virus they call. That is a virus causes the cervical cancer. So she was diagnosed with cervical cancer, and she was recommended a radium therapy. At the time, radium is the therapy that they use. The doctor that she met is Dr. Howard Jones. He himself is very, always John Hopkins is in the forefront of all the true medicines in the past, even in the future. Now they're presently very leaders of the medicine. So Dr. Howard Jones is a OBGYN doctor. He did in America first birth in vitro test tube baby, in vitro fertilization he did in the United States. Her name is Elizabeth Cott. She was a test tube baby, first test tube baby in the United States. She's a 40 years old now. But and also he was a pioneer in doing the first sex change clinic, a gender identity clinic. He started it in John Hopkins. Can you believe that? 40 years ago, think about that, how much resistance he got faced from the religious zealots. I can imagine. But he was still strong, and then he was a true servant of the medicine. So he did both of them. He was doing a forefront of the OBGYN, actually. There's another Dr. Howard Kelly is also there, but Dr. Howard Jones wrote a book, actually. That book is The In Vitro Fertilization Comes to America. He brought it from the Europe, actually. That is one. So what is he was doing a landmark study on the cervical cancer. So what is the cervical cancer? I am not a doctor. Be just my it is the introduction to non-physicians, introduction of a physicist introducing some kind of concept to the non-physicians. It is a epithelial cells or the surface cells, basically on the top of it, and the basal cells are on the bottom. Most of the cancers are, they're contained within they're not at metastaticized. They are contained within the basal cells. They won't come out. So usually that is the case most of the time. But sometimes it breaks out. If there is a lesion there, if there is some sexual disease can cause that lesion in that skin, and then these cancer cells go up to the top and then cause the cancer, cervical cancer. That is HPV virus can cause that. So that is the biggest problem for women. In actually, they were telling that they put on she was put on a radium therapy. Radium is I told you, radium inventor is. I did a program on the Mary Curie. She's the inventor of the radium. So radium was widely. She's in 1930s just invented it, and then immediately she put to use for the cancer treatment. In fact, radium. She's going through radium treatment, but they collected tissue cultures. That they collect the tissue culture. In fact, his name is George Otto Gay. His name is. He is the guy. He's a scientist. First president of the Tissue Culture Association. Is a tissue culture scientist. He is. So so he was a pioneer in the tissue culture world. In fact, so he did actually he invented a lot of things. One of the things he invented roller drums that where you can store the tissues, the cultures in different cultures with a roller drum. So a lot of pathologists understand this. From Dr. Krishna Tangella probably using it. Then he invented a very interesting that time lapse cinematography. Cinematography was invented at the John Hopkins. Came out from John Hopkins because they want to see that how the cells growth are and all those things. They were trying to make a picture. So there's a time lapse cinematography was invented, actually discovered in that they developed in the John Hopkins. Then electron microscope, first time they used it to study the structure of the cell, electron microscope used in John Hopkins. So truly pioneer in medicine, John Hopkins is at the time, even now. So first HeLa cells, they got the HeLa cells from, they collected the HeLa cells, like they were collecting from all the patients, the culture. So the cultures they're collecting to study for the future and understanding what's going on with the cancer. So human cells die within 10 mutations outside of the body. If you take the cells outside of the body, they hardly stay more than 1 or 2 days. I don't know exact days, but not months, definitely. They die very quick. So what the problem is, people who want to study all the cancers and everything with it, they have to do fast and quick. They otherwise the cells die. So one thing they found out is these HeLa cells. These are the Henrietta Lacks cells that they collected from Henrietta Lacks. They call the first name of Henrietta and Lacks is a last name. They combine them. They call HeLa Lines, of course. HeLa. So they are doubling every 24 hours. That is the strangest thing. It is just without, they could not understand. It stunned the scientific community. In fact, they're doubling every 24 hours. Not only that, it contaminating anywhere it sees. That's a cancer cells, right? It's spreading across anywhere that it touches, it goes there. That is surprising to scientists. They're not dying. Oh, that is a very powerful tool for to study actually scientific, research, to do scientific research. That's a powerful thing. So what they did was Thomas Thermo Fisher Scientific actually made last year by selling one of the main products is selling HeLa Lines. $35 billion amount they sold it in 2020. $400 to thousands of dollars it can go to the vial of the HeLa Lines. So I tell you, their family didn't get anything. Still, they went to lawsuit. They're in the lawsuit right now in the courts right now. So Thermo Fish, there's a lot of other companies are there now. They sell these cellular lines, HeLa lines, because they don't die. They're doubling every 24 hours. They're going anything they touch, it is becoming almost HeLa cells. Any other cells touch them, it becomes a HeLa cells. So they have consistent structure available for them to study the cellular lines. So HeLa cells used in a tremendous amount of research. They invented new drugs, new toxins, hormones, viruses. They are all using. They put the cells. They bombard them with these things, with drugs and toxins and hormones and viruses, and see how the structure of the cell changes, the function and the structure, both of them. So, out of this research, the polio vaccines, COVID-19 vaccine, HPV, human papilloma virus, they all came out of this HeLa cells. In fact, so there is thousands of studies done on the HeLa cells. In fact, so all these vaccines, they came out of the HeLa cells, studying, understanding the HeLa cells. So that Jonas Salk, the polio vaccine came out of the HeLa cells. The research done under the Jonas Salk. Um, 18 million people saved. They would have got this disease. In fact, this is a young children were saved from this disease. I had a cousin when I was a kid. He had a polio. In fact, I tell you that in my village. So actually, that's 18 million people saved. They would have been afflicted with the polio. Actually, it's not just a general population. You were saying that a possible 18 million people, they reduced the incident rate by 50% among them. That is a polio vaccine did wonders, really. Jonas Salk, we tribute to Jonas Salk. He didn't patent it. Now we're all IT guys started this patenting nonsense. Everything is patent now. They have more lawyers. Jonas Salk refused to be patenting. He gave a gift to humanity. In fact, so one of the greatest scientists, American scientist, HPV vaccine, human papilloma virus that prevents the cervical cancer. 66 million people in 2019 is reduced by 50% in the reduced the incident rate in the HPV vaccine. Cervical cancer, it protects the cervical cancer. Lancet and JAMA, yeah, the Journal of American Medical Association journal, and the Lancet is an international journal, very very reputable journals. Came up, the studies done. 66 million people, women, young children, teenagers, particularly women, particularly that's susceptible to the HPV, the cervical cancer. So they are protected from because of this HPV vaccine. That's due to the HeLa line study. The HeLa lines went into space. Actually, that you cannot send people into space. With International Space Station, there are people there, but to study in the long term effects of radiation and zero gravity on the cell lines, we have to study them there. So they send the HeLa lines to the space. It is right now in the International Space Station. In the Mir, the Soviet Union Mir station, which is similar to uh, International Space Station, it is there. They studied the radiation effect on the cellular lines cells. The HeLa cells they went there because if you take out any of the cells, they die within within few mutations. But HeLa cells keep multiplying, right? So that is perfectly good for them. They don't die. So in the radiation therapy, as you see in the picture, they were the long exposure, 9 days. It destroyed the DNA. On the right side, you see that it's a radiation injury that is to the causes. So when in the future, it is really a good study to understand if you wanted to send the future humans to Mars and any other long-term staying in the moon or any other places. That is we need to understand the radiation exposure. So that is a one they have done through the HeLa lines in space. The zero gravity, you can see certain endothelium cells, for example, is there because of the gravity they flattens out here, so they cannot see three-dimensional structure. So when you go to the zero gravity, a microgravity is not a zero zero exactly. There's a microgravity there. So they expand into three-dimensional geometry, so you can understand, you can create a better drugs. I was talking about last time is the Keytruda is another drug they created in the international space medicine. I was telling you Keytruda immunotherapies drugs are right now we talked about immunotherapy. A lot of drugs from immunotherapy were being developed in the space. In fact, they're studying the proteins in the space to get the right medications actually medicines. So HeLa lines in space give a tremendous amount of wealth of information to us. So HeLa lines is immortal. Why they are immortal? It is beyond my pay grade to explain this medicine, but I'm going to try this. University of Washington, they found out why not every other human cells don't live. Only any lax cells are living permanently immortal cells. They found out that the viruses that causes cancer is the sitting next to the oncogenes, that genes that causes cancer in the humans. They're sitting next to each other, they're connected together. Somehow they became a friends at that time. Wrong friends for us. So they became friends and they're sitting next to each other and they're affecting and continuously feeding on each other, and then oncogenes become the cancer genes and HeLa lines. So it is continuously producing HeLa cellular lines. That's what it's doing. So the cells that the virus that is causing cancer sitting happen to be next to the HeLa lines, the HeLa cellular HeLa cells. That's where they constantly feeding on each other and becoming a continuous loop. So that's why we're producing where you see continuous cells. That's one of the explanation. Even recently, they didn't know until recently, until 2013. We don't know until that. University of Washington came up with the research on that one. So yeah, her name is Rebecca Skloot. She's a teacher actually. She's in Boston. She was a teacher, and she was now professor now. She was she was she was in Harvard. She heard about Henrietta Lacks HeLa cells. She found out what the HeLa means. They said that Henrietta is a first name, and the first name and last name they're using it. So she wanted to explore what is going on with it. And then she writes a book. It's a New York Times bestseller for 6 years almost. So that is a immortal life of immortal life of Henrietta Lacks. That's what it says. The book. So the book is actually they did a movie on it. The Oprah Winfrey produced it. She acted in that movie as a daughter of the Henrietta Lacks. In fact, um, daughter of the Henrietta Lacks. She didn't act like she was not the main character there. It's a different one, but because she died very early, so she was there. So the Oprah Winfrey produced the show on HBO. You can see it actually. So the she was the one. She brought a story, interesting story. They don't know, the people in the Henrietta Lacks family didn't know that they're using these hair cells all over the world. So she says that story in that book. She says that there's a Chinese research scientist from John Hopkins called to get more information about the Henrietta Lacks family members. Then they wanted to know what's going on and why they're worried about they're going to get cancer or not. They're worried about it. And then their communication failed. So they wanted to further investigate, and they found out that is actually they came out that the John Hopkins acknowledged it, and they produced it. They actually, I will definitely play next time that video. That they they're really building Henrietta Lacks Memorial Building. It has a new research center is being developed there. Actually, that's going to be in Maryland, in John Hopkins Hospital. So they paid a tribute to the Henrietta Lacks. You can read it on the John Hopkins website, and really it's a tribute to a unfortunate incident. Became a really she became an unsung hero of medicine. Henrietta Lacks, 100,000 PubMed medication published in the process. Hundreds of pharmaceuticals are being the pharmaceutical companies use Henrietta Lacks cells. Vaccines are being developed. I told you how many vaccines and cancer vaccines and vaccines itself for COVID-19, including, and the space travel. All of them are. She is the unsung hero of the medicine. HeLa Lines are always there. The Henrietta Lacks is the immortal woman. She died, but we all owe the humanity was to her big time. So thank you for watching. You can buy some of the t-shirts and all those things from a different. I cannot sell because that is a family things. I'm not selling hair products, but if you want to buy different products to the similar kind of a health daily wear from medicine.com, you can buy other things.
We are retelling their stories through our patented designs that can be worn on scrubs, t-shirts, printed on conference bags, and endless other promotional materials. Daily Wear for Medicine is the first ever of its kind to create curiosity in medicine through visual art. We at MedBricks are celebrating unsung heroes of the past who made enormous contributions to the field of medicine through our unique campaign called Daily Wear for Medicine. You can wear it, carry it, and give it.